I was like, there's no
Oh,
chance.
hey everybody. Oh, I'm sorry. We
Ah.
are late, and I apologize to everybody. We're still trying to iron these things out and these kinks out, but we're here. But welcome to
So I don't think they saw our intro or
They Didn't
anything.
See Anything.
I kept
My
thinking, I was like,
God,
we're not live, are we? Because
we're
I
not
not.
live, but we are now.
We all can always place the intro at the end
Yeah,
so they can see our new
we'll let
intro.
you guys hit the intro at the end. But welcome to Trust the Process for the ones that missed it. We're going to start all over again.
It's like we weren't live.
Yeah. Thank God for my wife's eyes, and because I'm wearing glasses and still can't see. Something's wrong with that picture. How about that? Well, anyway, our topic today is it's okay to not be okay.
Yes, yes.
You know, that's our topic today. We've gone through life situations where, you know, we were taught some things that really were untruth. That it was okay for you not to express your emotions.
Right.
That it's okay for you to just keep it moving and act like everything's cool. But it's not okay. Somewhere down the road, when you have these issues, it will cause issues. It will affect your life.
Right.
Emotionally. And next thing you know, it will affect you physically. But I'm gonna let my wife talk a little bit more so she can get more emphasis on what our topic is today.
Okay. Our focus today is dealing with emotions and feelings, really. And we had mentioned before that a lot of times our parents taught us, you know, not to deal with our emotions when we're sad, we're angry, or upset. And so the premise or the basis of what we're talking about today is the fact that nobody's perfect, right?
Right.
Nobody's perfect. We've got to just stop pretending that we're okay when we're not okay.
Right.
And so that people can see how to overcome and how to deal with feelings and coping with things of that nature. And it's important to know that I don't have to be perfect. Just like I think when we did our little testing earlier, we were talking about how we don't always have to look like we have it together. And we, as you saw, as those of us saw the testing early this morning, no makeup, no anything, we weren't together, right? As far as the way we looked and everything like that. But that's okay.
Right.
Because we don't have to look perfect every day. No. We don't have to look pulled together every day. Because sometimes just as people in general, we tend to pretend and we walk around wearing this mask as if everything is perfectly fine when it's not.
That's right.
And we have to make sure that we are not pretending that we're okay, because it's good to be transparent.
Right.
People need to see us being transparent.
Right.
Because otherwise, how are they going to know how to deal with their emotions if we're pretending like we don't have any of those things? It doesn't faze me, that's not what's going on. I'm not dealing with that. And we know when we think of the word perfection, we're thinking of not having any flaws, not any blemishes, and we know that that is not our reality.
Right.
There was something that I had written that I wanted to share with you, which I thought was kind of neat. And it just came to my mind yesterday that says, we are perfectly imperfect human beings who are also spiritual beings. Okay. So we're not perfect. We don't have to be. We don't have to pretend to be. I know for myself, I'm just going to talk a little bit about personal story. I used to always, when I was a little girl, I thought I always had to do everything exactly right. And if I did anything that wasn't right, it was a source of stress for me. I would get upset because I always wanted to do what was right and the right thing. Nobody put that pressure on me, but I put that pressure on myself, that I wanted to do right. And so as a result of that, I became an overachiever of wanting to always get the best grades or be the best on the school choir or the church choir and all this kind of stuff, when we don't have to put that pressure on ourselves, and God doesn't even do that, right?
No.
So it's important that we don't do that. But what has happened as we've grown up is that our parents they were teaching us to not get angry, not get upset, not, don't get sad, don't cry, those kinds of things. And so Stan is going to get ready to share a little bit more about that perspective. But I just want to remind you, this has been passed on from generation to generation.
Yeah.
That our parents taught us these things. So just keep in mind they meant well, but there needs to be a different way of dealing with our feelings and emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a prime example that I recall, some of these things, like I said, it starts in our youth. It starts even as a baby, believe it or not. When our child is learning how to walk, and all of a sudden they lose their step, and they begin to fall, and the parent reaches out, or to try to catch the child. Not saying that you should allow the child to get hurt or in a dangerous area where it could be some steps or anything, but on flat surfaces or whatever, believe it or not, it's sort of good that he does or she falls.
Right.
It gives them the ability to learn how to get back up, to pull themselves back up. But, fear is really a taught thing.
Yes.
And it starts really as little children, as really babies, because they don't know anything about fear.
It's true. It's true.
Fear is a taught thing. Fear really, it springs all the way up from a child, from all the way up to being an adult.
Right.
Some of these situations, even as men, we have a tendency where we say things that we ain't got no business really saying to our children, or even women too. Yes. Like especially at these baseball, football games, and our child is playing or whatever, and all of a sudden they get hit, especially in football or whatever, and then they get up and probably, or whatever, and all of a sudden you hear a father or mother from the stand, suck it up.
Yes, exactly.
Suck it up, boy, get up, get up. Not even realizing how much damage that just caused that child, because you have caused an open display,
right?
Open embarrassment, whatever. If you're going to do that, at least talk to your child and let them know about it after the game, one-on-one, not in a crowd of people. Because now they have this thing in their mind and they're looking at you in a different perspective as a child to a parent.
I'm sorry. I didn't knock that over.
It causes them to think that, something is wrong with me.
I just did.
Something's wrong with me, but we ask that you please give us some questions. If you have any questions.
Do you click on that?
Yeah. I clicked on it. Oh. That's the only way it's going to show up.
Okay. I wasn't seeing any questions or responses.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But, so this is it's going to be on our pre-recorded show also. So, people will hear this even afterwards. This show is over. So getting back to everything I was saying, that, that it's okay, to talk to your child, but be careful of the words you say, because words can hurt, or they can build your child up, or tear them
That's
down.
A good point. Okay.
So be aware of those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's important too to realize, no matter how good you are, no matter what background you came from, whether you're Christian or you're not a Christian, or you're not of a particular faith, that bad things happen to good people every day.
Yeah.
What with Stan and I, just to share, be transparent with you guys, is that we have suffered a lot of loss since COVID started. Probably anywhere from 15 to 20 family members, two of Stan's siblings. That included two of his siblings, an uncle, multiple cousins, some friends that have all passed, and it has not been easy for us.
Yeah.
So we've had to learn how to deal with our own emotions, and still working on that.
Yeah.
Because that pain and that sadness that you feel, people don't see that either.
No.
You don't get to see that behind the scenes stuff, but it's so important to realize that things do happen. You may lose a loved one, cause you some sadness and some anger and some other emotions going on. Loss of a job, it could be things that happen, and even people attacking your reputation and not really believing that you are who you are, who you say you are. that kind of thing. So all kinds of things come our way that triggers those emotions, whether it's anger, sadness, disappointment, you feeling rejected, those kinds of things. It's okay to express those feelings. It's okay to release them and get them out, because we have to really release them. It's important. And I was reading something that I thought was interesting that said, God allows us to have emotions so that we can do something about them. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about not the negative, but the positive. Whether we're going to, take the time to really process and work through them, or come up with a solution of how to resolve. Why am I sad? Why am I angry? Those kinds of things. So it's a prompt from our Heavenly Father to say, hey, look, what are we doing here? There's something you got to choose to do at this point in your life to change differently. Even though, you've encountered all these different things. So it's just not healthy to bottle stuff up on the inside. Mm-hmm. And I know when Steve and I were talking the other day, I was just reminding him about how, imagine you're watching the news and you see there's been a shooting somewhere, or at a workplace or someplace like that. And when the reporters interview the people there, this is really not funny, but there's a connection here. It happens that the reporters say, well, what happened? Did you know the person? And it was like, yeah, that was my neighbor. The perfect person was always nice and quiet, kept to himself or herself. And then you realize that probably in that situation, that person had a lot of feelings and things that were going on, whether it was anger, sadness, frustration, and all of those other things that they did not deal with. And so by them bottling up inside, it just kind of became to a point where it was like a release, a volcano or an explosion, because of all those feelings that were trapped inside. And it's interesting that a lot of the times that's what you hear. That person, they were a nice person. They didn't bother anybody, but they did not deal with those emotions that they had. So it's so important that we deal with those emotions. And that's, I guess, some of the main things that I wanted to touch on. And we know that it's so, bad things are going to happen, but we still have to learn how to process those feelings. We still have to learn how to move forward and all of that as well. Before we jump ahead, I need you to go here.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep us on our outline.
Oh, sorry.
And talk about that.
What happens when we hold those feelings inside of us? Health problems, sometimes usually drugs. It can vary.
Health problems that people can have?
Yeah, health problems,
Such as?
Well, stress, anxiety.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Of course, when you go to a stage of worrying, it causes stress. Guilty. And anxiety.
And so how does it affect your health, though?
It affects you from the inside out, believe it or not.
Physically?
Physically, blood pressure issues,
right.
From irregular heart rates, heart beatings. It varies.
Okay, so I also think about, you said blood pressure. We're talking about hypertension,
right?
Diabetes. There are a lot of people, because they have internalized a lot of stuff, end up getting sick. And I think about a lot of people that are in leadership positions, whether it's in the church community or whatever else. They can allow the stress and then the feelings that go along with it, and they don't address it, then it can become a problem that way, even affecting their leadership and affecting their health. And, you probably have heard of people who had a massive heart attack, and it was really a result of a lot of stress and what was going on with them. And so these not dealing with emotions, it does affect us physically, right?
Yeah,
it really does affect our health. So we have to keep in mind that also does. And what would you say about the drugs? You mentioned using drugs. How does that affect somebody's life? Or what do you seen some things you worked in that area, right?
And especially rehab, working with some people in rehab, it causes not only effects on themselves, but also their family members.
Right.
You know, the trauma of whatever the individual is going through because of drugs, it pours over into their family, their siblings. You know, it affects everybody.
That's right. It does. It does. It does affect everybody.
You know, they have no control. Or, you know, because of that desire and the temptation, it's so overwhelming that it takes them to a point even of suicide.
Yeah.
You know, the dark side.
Right.
You know, when they feel like, you know, if I can just, you know, do this drug and maybe my issues will get better or the problems will go away.
Right. So it's like a coping.
It's a coping method
for some people. So it's important that even with dealing with feelings that you do have a way of coping. And some people choose drugs, you know, to self-medicate in a way of coping, and that's not a good choice. So, you know, there's always positive ways, you know, that we can deal with that as well, right?
Right.
I'm trying to think of anything else we can think of that as a result when you hold your feelings in, what happens. As a result of anger, you know, when people get angry, it can cause them to lose friends, right? If they lashing out at people as a result of that.
Yeah, it causes them to literally be alienated.
Yeah.
You know, the trust issues gone out the window. You can forget all about that because they, even if you see them at family reunions, they feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, and people have a tendency, they either crutch or grab their purse or, you know,
especially the ones that have been
stealing because of, you know, to get their fix.
Right.
So some of those things, because they know that's no longer JoJo or whoever. There's somebody different right there. You know, we know what's going on. Everybody knows who JoJo is, and we already know his past. They emphasize more on his past than really JoJo's trying to become better, but they're not looking at that. They don't care about that.
That's true.
So, you know, they still remember what you did to even more than what you're trying to accomplish to be. So, you know, those things.
And we need to touch on too the fact that people use drugs, we stand for coping, but also it's an escape, you know, to not deal with the feelings. It's an escape to if I'm high, I'm not going to feel anything and I don't have to think about it, you know?
Yeah.
So a lot of that's what that is, whether they experience trauma or different things. I remember there was this man that I worked with when I over the years, I've been a mental health case manager and done a lot of work in assisting people with, you know, emotional things and even getting services, mental health services. And I remember there was this one man that used drugs. And his thing was the trauma that he experienced was that he watched his mother kill herself in front of him. And so he struggled with that. So it's so important that when we see people that are using drugs as a way of coping or dealing with their emotions, that we shouldn't judge them. We should find a way that we can be helpful to them, whether it's connecting them with services, if they're willing to do it, right? Because, you know, in your field, sometimes people are not ready, right?
Right. They're not ready. And you most definitely cannot force somebody to do something that they have to really independently want help.
Right.
You know, it really begins in them going, I need help.
And they've got to be ready.
Yeah, they got to be
ready.
Yeah,
and that's
definitely. Yeah.
And that's what I would tell a lot of the family members that would come to me and, you know, with concerns. They've got to be ready to get the help so that they can work on those emotions and feelings and go get some therapy and some support. We can't make them do that.
No.
You know, they got to be ready to do that. Right.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So I guess we're at the top. Okay. I see now. I did have my coffee earlier, talking about for those of us who are of different faiths and et cetera, and have spirituality, the fact that Jesus was an emotional being. You know, when he came on this earth, he took on the form of a human man, right?
Right.
And so during the course of his life, there were emotions and things that he had to deal with.
Yeah.
That we have to deal with ourselves. And he was his goal was to be the example to show us how to deal with those emotions, which I thought was a great thing. And I had a few examples of situations where he was angry or upset. And I'm gonna let you guys go home later. Well, we have time later to do your homework to figure out where these examples are coming from, right?
Okay. Right. Amen.
Because I
Amen.
don't have all my scriptures, I don't have all that in front of me
Amen.
right now. But we all know that Jesus, there were times when he wept.
Oh yeah.
When he cried. Remember the story of Lazarus, right? So when Lazarus had been dead for 4 days, and by the time Christ got to him, and he was so sad about losing, that was for Lazarus was his friend,
right?
That he cried, he wept. It did affect him. So people grieve all the time about loss of loved ones. So it's so important that we realize, just like he had to deal with that, we have to deal with that and process through it, right? We have to do that. And so it's okay to cry,
right?
When you're grieving, you've lost someone. It's okay to cry when you're hurting, and there's this pain of rejection and hurt that you feel, feeling of betrayal or whatever. It's okay to cry, because crying is our release, right, Stan?
Right.
Would
it
you
is
say
a
that?
release. Yes, it is.
Okay, so just be mindful of that our release comes from positive ways of things that we can do to let go of that emotion that we have, right?
Right.
Another thing that I think about with Christ is the fact that not only did he cry there, but it was a challenge for him when it was time for him to, die on the cross.
Yeah.
And he was praying, Father, if you sure will, let this pass from. I know that I need to do it, but I really don't. My feelings are saying no. I'm afraid. I don't want to do it. So, but he worked through. You notice he processed through all of that, and he was able to eventually, give up his life and be crucified, and then to be resurrected and all of that. So we have to think about how he dealt with those things, right? There was an example where he was angry.
Oh yeah. Oh, you talking about the temple?
Yeah. Whew. The temple situation. He really now there. we see him let loose that anger, right? Because he was upset that during the course of the time, which I think the title that connected with that story was called, it talked about the cleansing of the temple.
Yeah.
Christ went through, and I think that's Luke 19 that you can look at that. 45 through 48. I did jot that one down.
Yeah.
But he just became angry because they were just in there selling stuff and doing all kinds of things, which was not acceptable, because that's not what the church was or the temple was for.
Right.
It was supposed to be a place of worship, a place of prayer. And then he got so angry, he was turning over tables in there and saying, it's not a place of prayer or whatever. It's a den of thieves.
Right.
Because people were doing things they were not supposed to be doing in the temple. But there you do see him really get angry, right?
Yeah.
And let loose.
Yeah.
Disappointment is something that he felt. And I think about all the times that yes, he was trying to teach the disciples on what to do and how to do it. He had to deal with disappointment. There was one incident where he was praying and they fell asleep. It's like, okay, can't you even pray with me for an hour? All I'm asking for is an hour,
Just an hour.
And he was really disappointed and hurt that they didn't do that. And then, of course, the ultimate disappointment that we know of that is written in the Bible relates to Judas. Can you imagine, having a friend and being connected to somebody for 3 years that you love dearly, and for that person to totally betray you? And I'm sure some of you have had that experience. All of us, I think, to some degree, have had that. That you've been betrayed by people that you trusted, that you loved, that were close to you. But when those things come, it's not always easy to process the feelings that go along with it. I'm just going to speak for myself personally, and then if Stan has any things to share, that would be great. But I have remembered in the past that were friends that were really close to me, and then they did things that hurt me. I struggled with that. I really struggled with that because Here you are is someone that I've known for the longest time and we're close, but yet um here this thing comes up between us that we can't agree upon, or that where they did something that was against what I was doing, or spoke against me, or didn't support me, or whatever. That can be very hurtful. And so I had to process through that. It was not easy, many years of not years, but many times of crying, and times of the hurt and the pain. But we have to process it. We have to work through it. We have to forgive. And it goes into forgiveness, right, Stan?
Right.
That part of it. So it's so important that we also process and deal with our emotions so that we can forgive and move forward, right?
Right.
Anything else you want to add to that part?
Yeah, those are things that happen, and it's unfortunate, when you've had friends, even relatives, that were very close to you, and all of a sudden things change. Now, don't get me wrong. Life, as you grow older, things will change.
Right.
Things will change where you no longer communicate as much as you used to. The children are here, the children are born. Now you got to focus more on your family more than anything. Now, especially the kids got to get ready to go to college. So that's more of a situation that really that can't be avoided. But there are things that you do have friends that you were very had confidence in, or confidants, personal things that you talked about.
Right.
I've been through situations, even through as a musician, that when things occurred that I could no longer play for that church anymore, because, things happen when I lost my job, and then I had to revamp my life. I had to work a shift that I didn't want to work, the shift that I did not want to work, but I had to work it because bills got to be paid.
Right.
But there's things that I had to make a decision. Well, do I continue to stay with this church, or do I allow my family to suffer? Not. My family's going to always come first before anything or anybody.
And you've played for a lot of churches.
I played for a lot of churches. I had some.
There was some negative experience.
That was some negative experience, wow. Yeah. But it is what it is. I've got to this point in my life now that, it is what it is. But I would not neglect my responsibility as a father, as a husband, as a provider. That alone, there's a lot of guys and some women that I know that make their living doing that, but they've done it so long, and they very skillful at what they do,
and they've built up that clientele,
which is understandable, but there's times that you have to work a full-time job and do church, but sometimes things happen,
right?
Whether your job move out of state, whether your schedules change, your shift has changed, and you got to make some adjustments. So you can give somebody the heads up and let them know what's going on. But sometimes churches, the leaderships, they will trip. And it's okay, but they ain't got nothing to do with me.
Now let's go back to the church part. The church community, or the faith community, however you want to phrase it, for some of them, not all, has taught us to deny our emotions and feelings. Remember, you touched on that at the very beginning about when you're having a problem, you're sad, you're hurt, you're disappointed, you feel feelings of rejection and all that, and sadness. Just pray. You said that.
That's at the top of the list. Child, pray about it. God will work it out. Just have you prayed about it? Well, some things you just can't pray away.
Right.
Because they become very deeply emotional. And yes, emotion is a real thing.
Right.
It's not going to make you even lesser of a person. And it's not going to make you become more over exaggerating situation. But things occur emotionally in your life that's really can overtake you.
Right. And there has
yeah.
to be a balance, because
And
you
yeah,
know that we know that prayer is necessary. We're not disregarding prayer,
right.
but we are mentioning the fact that we're still all human beings, and we're all going to go through some things and have to deal with feelings and emotions,
Hmm.
even within the church. And I was talking to someone the other day, and they were talking about, you know, uh, it would be important if there was somebody out there who would, educate the church about
Yeah.
mental illness
Hmm.
and how it affects people. And I said, hey, I volunteer. I'd be willing to volunteer to do that, to let people know that mental health is so important, and we can still be in church, as you probably have seen over the years, where people have shared, whether it's in music industry or acting or whatever, about how they had depression, but they didn't really recognize what it was.
Hmm.
And then when they recognized what it was, that people in the church were not supportive in them to like do therapy or things like that. So
Hmm.
we not only have to address our spiritual side, we have to address the human side of us as well,
Right.
because that is a part of us. That's how God created us. When He
Yeah.
made us into the beings that we are,
Yeah.
we're still human. So we have to make sure that we address that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
I recommend to even the clergies,
Mm-hmm.
um, and other leaders that's within their ministry, educate yourself on mental health.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get more information or learn more about it, talk to somebody that's an expertise in the mental health field to educate you and your flock.
Yes, I think that would be a
It's a
good
lot of
idea.
things that we, even through counsel, there are some leaders that do counsel.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some that are very aware of mental health, but unfortunately, in some of the Black community churches, they're not educated about it.
Mm.
You know, they don't have any insight about it.
Right,
You
right. And
need
that's
to learn it. You
supporting.
need to really learn, because it's not a demon. You
Mm-mm.
can't cast it out. You can't put oil on people or whatever. This is something that you need to educate yourself about.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time that the church was the pillar of the community, and we fed the hungry, clothed the naked. That was before there was a social service, there was a
Right,
church.
right.
But it's some things that they didn't even know back then that we're living in today that we never thought that we would see. Like I said, the suicide rate to go up so high,
Mm-hmm.
and not only in the world alone, but in the Black community.
Yes.
We need to educate ourselves. We need to get something incorporated into the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even, like I said, with the leaders, spiritual leaders, pastors, bishop, apostles, educate yourself, please.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Because if you really think about it, Stan, when we were younger, um, there were mothers in the church and different people, and your mom and mama and my
oh
mom,
yeah.
who did address the needs, the emotional needs, the physical needs
Mm-hmm.
of people that were hurting, whether they were sick, sad, or whatever, by going into their homes and cooking meals for them, because that's
Mm-hmm.
providing support when
Right.
people are going through some emotional things or trauma, cleaning their house,
Yeah.
running errands, so it's important. We can draw from that. We can learn from those things that other mothers and even of the church, and fathers, or deacons rather, of the church, people used to do that they
Oh
don't
yeah.
really do anymore.
Yeah.
If you really look at a lot of the churches, there are not too many that do a lot of the outreach and
Yeah.
providing that support when people need it, they're
Yeah.
going through trying times.
Yeah. Those what you call true missionaries.
Right, right.
Where the neighborhood took care of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
When you had the mothers and, even the fathers were mentors
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
To the males, and the mothers were mentors to the females,
Mm-hmm.
the girls.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we've lost a disconnect with our community.
Yes, yes.
Which is some of the downfalls of what's going on now. We shouldn't have to depend on the government on some of these
That's true. That's
issues.
true. The
Just
church should be the
the church
forerunners,
should
right?
supposed to be the first ones to step up into that category.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting to a point now where there are neighbors checking on each other. making sure that everybody's okay.
It's important.
But it's very important, and I emphasize that more than anything, that we get back into it for our friends, for our brothers and sisters that who who you are, how we was raised, some of these things that we was taught, some of these things that even we know in our heart of heart.
Right.
We need to help this generation.
You do.
We really need to help this generation, because even though we were privileged to have mentors, some of our generation of today, they're not privileged. We got a lot of single moms, a lot of single dads, but especially single mom. Some of these things, mental issues that our children are going through, the struggle, even bullying, back in the day.
Yeah. It's a different world
It's
now.
a totally different world now. I mean, back in the day, we could handle that. We could handle that. But these kids today, some of them, they will literally take their life.
Yeah, especially with social media. A lot of things being posted to hurt people and traumatize people, and it's kind of sad.
It's very sad
that their lives have been lost simply because people were bullying people, which ended up resulted in them becoming depressed and losing hope, and then taking their own lives. It's sad. So there's so much happening in the world that we need to be aware of when we're ministering to people that are having concerns and emotions and things that they're dealing with like that.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm going to touch on real quick that ways to cope with our feelings, right? And emotions we've talked about before. Stan and I have mentioned include therapy or counseling, whether it's spiritual counseling, because some of the ministers and people of faith that are priests or whatever have a counseling capacity as well. They can counsel you on spiritual things,
right,
as well as you're dealing with your emotions, or that kind of supportive kind of listening ear that they can do with that. Anger management, if there is an issue with anger management, and some of us do have problems with that, then there's no shame in going to a workshop on anger management. There's no there's no shame in getting books to read up on how do I manage my anger. I don't want to keep exploding and pushing people away and isolating myself and losing friends and family because I can't handle or manage my anger when I get upset.
Right.
Exercise for some people. Get that stress off of you. Whether it's it could be running, jogging, going to the gym,
or just walking and let the sun hit your face.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like doing that.
There's like times that just to walk, especially on today. After the storm, it caused us to have a Carolina blues.
Outside,
we're gonna go out there as soon as we get through with this. Some of those things, man. And then just to talk to somebody.
Yeah, somebody that you trust.
Somebody that you trust. And that comes with the process of time. The trusting. Because you don't want nobody to have your business in the street.
Right. That's the other part.
So that's a totally different entity. So the trusting, I built relationships along my life's journey with my brothers who are now really close to me like blood.
Yes, exactly.
That we talk and we keep things confidential, amongst each other, because females, y'all always have a outlet, seems like more than males.
Well, we try. That's what we try to provide support to each other.
And I'm trying to get the brothers to, yo, man, let's talk. You know what I'm saying? Let's open up, open up. Let me know what's going on, and, whatever goes on, talk. When we're talking, it stays where it is.
Yeah, yes.
It's not going to get your business on the street. But when you talk to, somebody, it gives you that somebody cares.
Right. Well, that may be God's way of telling you that's something you should be doing. You sing it, right?
Yeah. Well, I know that I know that
you do that on
I
an
do that.
individual basis.
I do that on an individual
but
basis,
not as a group.
not as a group. But
Right, right.
I don't want to do that as a group because men don't really like to be. They don't like to really talk about stuff openly.
Okay, I got you.
You
I
know,
understand that.
you really they sort of do better when you talk to them one on one.
Okay, I
Because
understand
they're
that.
very they have very
They're very private a lot of
private
times.
and they have limitation.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
they carry themselves in a quiet way because they feel like they can handle it.
Okay, I got you.
And really in reality you really can't handle it. So yeah, as a group situation it's more of a one-on-one.
Well, maybe there could be just something at some point like a workshop where it's educational and provide information to
Yeah,
men,
yeah, and it can happen that way. If it's needed and if it's important to the individual or a group,
right?
It can happen.
Because there have been male events or events for men to be able to learn things and
but some of those programs
bond and all that stuff.
Yeah, some of those programs that we once had in my days, those programs are no longer now. Now you have to reestablish something or now we invent something now, but because of everything that's going on now, it's a totally different time. And so the best place to meet somebody is one-on-one. Okay. I always leave that door open to all my friends, all my brothers. I leave it open to them because they feel comfortable talking to me.
Okay.
And I feel comfortable talking to them. Okay. Because I know my stuff ain't gonna be in the street.
Okay. And that's important to choose people that you will not share private information.
Yeah. And people. I'm praying that even I'm gonna have to tread very lightly on it with leadership, spiritual leadership, pastors, bishops, apostles, that God will lead me to talk to them or counsel them. Yeah. Because it's a lot of things that they keep undercover.
A lot of things that responsibilities and a lot of things that they deal with that you can't talk to other people
can't,
about.
But
right.
Because they have taken on so much of other people.
Right.
That they don't even have a place where they can have somebody to talk to.
Right.
So I mean, really, unless they're caught up in their titles and themselves, that's a totally different avenue. That's something that you really can't help nobody who don't want no help or they so caught up in their title. That's a totally different place.
Well, and going back to ways to cope, music is a way because it can be very calming if you're upset or stressed. Was it David that used to play?
Yeah.
And Saul was upset and it calmed him. So, that can be a calming thing when you're feeling very, very emotional or prayer, meditation. Yeah. A couple other things.
Yeah. Yeah. Most definitely music. That's my thing. That's my
therapy
outlet. That's my therapy. I mean, when I'm in the studio and I got that door closed, you just got to wait.
Yeah, I don't bother him when he does that. I just make sure I'm not loud if he's trying to record or something like that.
Because I mean the concepts and things that God's given me on the music or whether composition of instrumental, whether it be lyrics or whatever, man, that's therapy for me.
Yes.
And the really, really, really important part and the most enjoyable part is when God gives it to me.
That's it.
Those melodies.
Right.
Those words. And really they're for me. At times there was a time I was trying to push my music.
Right.
And kind of realize the music ain't for everybody. The music was for me.
Something to think about.
Yeah. And then maybe, whenever God says, okay, it's time, you can release it publicly
for somebody else to
share.
Right. That makes sense.
Which, I'm praying that God, please hurry up. Because this music is
transparency.
It's so good that I want other people to hear it. Because I know it's going to heal.
Yeah,
I know it's going to heal.
Something with music, there's always
there's
something for somebody in particular. There's always somebody that could use it.
There is most definitely a healing method of a healing in music. And especially if you're doing it, from your heart. And then God forbid, and then you have the anointing on top of it. So yeah, it causes change.
And I was gonna share something real quick because it just came to my mind. It relates to your auntie, Madam Marilee Haney. I remember when my daddy died, and one of the songs that she sang that got me through that situation was "I Prayed About It."
Oh yeah.
And that ministered to me. It really did. So I wanted to make sure that I did share that.
Yeah. There are songs that are good for healing.
Yes. Yes.
You know, really are. You know, those are the times that you can really get into that place, you know, that only you and God can only be in.
Right.
You know, that gives him the opportunity to speak to you. And it opens up doors.
And that's what prayer does.
And it does.
Gives you the opportunity to just speak your heart to your Heavenly Father. It's like, I'm angry, I'm upset, I need help. And I've done that, and I know you've done that. Because we have to cope and deal with our emotions, because otherwise, if you don't, it can take you down, actually.
Yeah.
It can take you down. So if you don't have anything else to share, I was going to end up
with
just something that I wanted to share, because I always try to end with something, and I had to write this down of things to remember. So let me go ahead and read this real quick, and then we'll make sure we play get to see the beginning. Things to remember: being transparent can lead to a life of freedom. Freedom from judgment, rejection, and a life that allows you to be your authentic self. People who are not Christians, who do not know Christ, or is not a Christian faith, would respect us more if they saw us be transparent, if they saw us fall 7 times but still kept working on improving ourselves, than us being self-righteous.
Wow.
That's what God gave me.
Wow.
Yeah. It's so important. It is so important.
Wow. Well, we're going to end it on that.
And we appreciate everybody that's listening.
Yeah, and forgive us again.
Because we started out, you wasn't even on. We thought we was live. I was like, wait a minute. Don't it say we live?
And I know some of my tech brothers right now are laughing.
We've had some challenges. This is a new year.
It's a new year.
We're trying to fix it and work it out.
Oh my God.
So you want to go ahead and show and just say what you want to say?
Yeah.
Our intro about what Aaron.
Yeah, we are. I want to give a shout out to our son, Aaron Flake, who's now come aboard.
He's been helping us with
helping us a lot with the technology, the editing. And I told Aaron, he said, well, Dad, what do you see? You know, what do you and Mom see? And I said, you know, we couldn't come up with a concept, so I had to pray. I said, God, show me. But when I saw, it was like a hand planting a seed in the ground.
Right.
And it's going through the growth, the processing. And that's when it came.
Yes.
And so I gave our son the concept, the idea. And I said, Aaron, you know, this is what I see. I said, but I want you to create it. And what do you see?
Right. So he created an introduction.
And he created an introduction. And so, guys, we're going to end it on this. And I promise
we'll do better next time. We're going to do
a whole lot better. You know, this really shouldn't have been sort of this bumpy, but because I've been up for hours trying to get this technology and stuff together. I mean, really, because I was like, woo, this is hard, you know, but
yes,
but we can breathe now. So I feel comfortable now. And I think we're going to have to really get to a point where we're going to have to change the spot of time. But we'll contact you by Facebook, by Renee. Also, the repeats of these shows, you can also see this on Safari TV, YouTube channel, you know, that we have. So this show will be posted. Also on Renee's Facebook, it's going to be posted. But we'll give you more details on where you can actually connect the link.
Right.
But you'll see this most definitely. If you don't see it today, you'll see it sooner.
Right.
Or later. But we're going to play this. Here's the clip. Check it out, y'all.
That is it. That's a wrap, right?
It's a wrap. See you guys next time.
Have a great day.
Love you.